On today's episode of Keys to the Kingdom, we're taking a look at the Agrabah Keyblade, 3 Wishes. I've never really been sure what to make of this Keyblade. I like the color scheme. The orange and gold is a nice contrast with the darker blue. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to latch onto. The actual handle is just this weird wooden peg, which looks really out of place. And then right below that is just this weird square that the keychain connects to. That looks really out of place when you take a closer look. The guard doesn't exactly connect to the bottom of the handle, which I kind of like, but the guard's also close enough to where it doesn't look like it was necessarily intentional, so it could go either way. I think the thing I like most about this design is the weird fin above the guard gives it this asymmetric look. And it's kind of reflected in that little protrusion opposite the teeth of the blade. Speaking of which, I'm really not sure what to make of that. Is it supposed to look like the handle of the lamp? The scarab wings, fire, it kind of looks like the font for the Aladdin logo. Is it a pointer finger and a thumb daintily picking up something? I guess it's kind of cool, it's definitely different, but how does it play into the larger design? It's just kind of awkward. So to put a number on appeal, I guess I'll go with 2. Yeah, it's a 2. I was going to go with 3 for 3 wishes, but no, it's definitely a 2. This is definitely one of the more abstract Keyblade designs in all of KH1, especially for the Disney Keyblade. There's really no specific reference to Aladdin, aside from the lamp, of course, being the keychain. I guess you could say the curvature and the pointiness kind of mimics the Agrabah architecture, but even that kind of feels like a stretch. I do appreciate how it's not so literal about being a Keyblade that represents Aladdin, but I feel like this kind of swung a little too far in the opposite direction where, again, if you didn't have that keychain, would you know that this is supposed to be an Aladdin Keyblade? For theming, I gotta give this one a 1. Oof. This one doesn't offer a whole lot over Jungle King. You get 1 extra strength, but the main feature is its recoil stat, which, if you don't know, it's basically when you clank with enemies, your recoil stat determines whether you'll stagger from the hit or your enemy will. Even that isn't super great on 3 wishes because it's kind of the neutral stance where once you clank, neither you nor the enemy will recoil. I can't exactly say that's useful. That extra strength is okay, but this definitely just feels like a holdover Keyblade until you get something better. Again, I think I gotta go with 2. The sound of hitting an enemy does have a nice thunk to it, but there's not a whole lot to say otherwise. It doesn't really stand out. What does stand out is the sound of when you just hit a solid object like a wall. It has a really nice clank to it. It sounds very metallic and solid, and you can just kind of feel the texture of the Keyblade based on that sound. But you're not going to really hear that super often. I'm feeling generous though, so I'll toss a point here. A swipe from the 3 wishes leaves a gold streak behind, much like the Kingdom Key. The Keyblade hit effect is a blue aura with yellow stars that pop out from it. And again, there's really not much to point to here. They could have easily leaned into the whole genie smoke effect. I mean, it's right there in the summon animation, but instead we get this half measure, this quasi puff that's sort of a blob, but sort of just a generic glow. Not a lot of personality. The name itself is probably my favorite part of this Keyblade. It's a short, snappy phrase that sounds good on its own, but unlike the rest of the design, this is actually a specific reference to the source material. I'll give a point for this one. The keychain, of course, is Genie's lamp. That's definitely the most iconic symbol of Aladdin, so this was a solid call. The shape does look a little off, but I'll chalk that up to limitations of the hardware and not necessarily a design choice. So I will grant you a point. 3 Wishes doesn't really stand out in any other way. I was trying to rack my brain of anything else that I can talk about. I guess it's kind of cool how 8's the 3rd Keyblade, which matches up to 3 Wishes, but that's not really worth awarding a point for. This is definitely a Keyblade that fades into the background. much like the genie after he grants his 3 wishes. I'm sure this Keyblade has its fans. The design definitely has more personality than Jungle King, although I personally prefer the look of that one, but I could definitely see how people would like the sharp edges and angles of this one over the more bland design of the Jungle King. But other than that, not much resonates with me. Really, the only reason I use this Keyblade is because I get so tired of Jungle King by the time I get it, but I'm definitely in a hurry to switch this one out the first chance I get.